بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. One truth.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
I got that phones on that.
Allah. He left. Bismillah. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope everyone is staying home safe. I don't know where my guy went. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum. One truth. Thank you. Invite. There we go. Welcome back.
هلا هلا. السلام عليكم.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الحمد لله. الحمد لله.
Inshallah, where do you got?
Picture in the background. Is it backwards for you or yeah, it's backwards, right?
I don't know. What am I drinking my shahi with from your end? My right or left?
Yeah, your left. Astaghfirullah al-azim. Okay.
Should we just wait? Just chat it up for now. See how many.
Well, yeah, it looks like there's people.
Make sure they invite their friends, families.
Yeah,
for now, you know,
that's cool.
It's gonna be very important for everyone, to be here, inshallah. There.
That's for sure.
But basically today, what we're gonna do is basically I'm going to be asking Ustad Nail some questions regarding the Deen, regarding questions that a lot of our Muslim brothers and sisters, us, have in our minds, that these questions, when answered, it opens up, with the help of Allah, of course, with the permission of Allah, the hearts of others to the truth. That's why we're called One Truth Foundation, right? Hopefully, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like we know, and it said before, that only by the permission of Allah, that He will guide whomever He wants, not us. Because if anyone would have guided whom they wanted, it would have been the best man to ever walk on earth, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He loved his uncle so much, Abu Talib. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't open his heart for the guidance, for Islam, for the truth.
Yeah.
You can hear me clear, right? It's good?
Yeah, I can hear you clear. I don't know why these AirPods won't connect, so I don't know. You can hear me clear too, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Inshallah. Yeah, it looks like there's people joining, and
yeah.
So do you want to start now?
Yeah, inshallah, we could start, inshallah. And just to remind those who just joined, so what's gonna happen is I'm going to ask Ustad Nail some questions, and we're gonna have some discussion about these questions. So you're gonna hear him talking more than I, because it's his show now.
Don't let me hear it.
But my job, because Ustad Nail, mashallah, barik, he'll keep going. These are questions that, one question is enough for a whole lecture.
Definitely.
Allah, I'm telling you, and we're trying to limit it, right?
Yeah.
And the best way of answering it. Why? Because, it is said, خَيْرُ الْكَلَامَ مَا قَلَّ وَزَدَ, right? The best of talks are a little, but they get to the mind, and that's what we're trying to do, just make it make sense, hopefully, right? So, and of course, the first question we gotta ask, and that's the question of, a lot of, not a lot, but I would say this question needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
Not that, because some of the Muslims are born Muslims, right?
Yeah.
So they're born into the religion of Islam, which is, alhamdulillah, is a blessing, you know, that we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. The question is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is God real?
Yeah.
And how do we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or God exists? How do we know he exists? What's the proof of his existence?
You know, that's a real good question. And most of the time when we think of that question, we think that that question is coming from non-Muslims. And a lot of the time it does. Most of the time when we get that kind of answer, it's people that not only that they're not Muslim, but they don't have religion at all, any religion. They're not Christian, they're not Jewish, Hindu, nothing. They just, I don't know really. They say, I don't know, because I don't know if there's proof. But what we find when giving da'wah, because obviously when we give da'wah, we talk to Muslims and non-Muslims, we find that this question is thought of by Muslim and mostly Muslim youth, right? Because most of the time, when you're older, you've spent years, even if you have thought of this, you've thought over it for years, right? And it's mostly Muslim youth that ask themselves this, but they never ask someone else that question, right? It's very rare to find a Muslim that asks themselves that question, right?
And just to point out,
Yeah.
and some youth will say, no, I never asked this question.
Yeah.
But it's still, he needs to pay attention or want to know the answer in case of another Muslim ask him, or a non-Muslim.
Yeah, for sure. So as far as how do we know Allah exists, right? How do we know that he exists with no doubt in our heart, right? We know Allah.
Is he real?
Right.
You know?
Is he real? Existence. Is he even there? Right? I would say the best answer, the best evidence is what Allah gives in the Quran. This is the best evidence, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks a question in the Quran.
Why is it the best evidence though? Like, because he's telling us about himself.
No.
So if you write a book about yourself, right? So is it fair for me to describe yourselves as you described yourself?
Yeah, no. No one is going to do it better than Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the verses that we can use to show as evidence that Allah exists is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he says, أَمْ خُلُقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks a question. He says, were they created from nothing, or were they themselves the creator of themselves, right? And this might seem like some simple questioning, right? But when you actually think of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is getting at something very core, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking two vital questions, because at the end of the day, us being here or everything in the universe, not only us, everything, existence in general, right? Existence has there's three ways it could have been. It has to be one of these three ways. Either it came from nothing, or it made itself, or it had to come from something else, right? These are the only three options, right? And what we use is deduction meaning that, or when when you're taking a test, when you're in high school or if you're in college, you use process of elimination, right? When you have multiple choice, right? You get rid of the ones that are obviously not the answer. So we can go through these three options. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the question for two of them. أَمْ خُلُقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ, were they created from nothing, right? And we can explore this and ask ourselves this, right? Is it possible that everything that exists came from nothing? The question is what is nothing? Nothing is not even a thing, let alone everything coming from it. Yeah. So nothing is literally, like, even if you think of, when you think of nothing, if you're thinking of a white space, yeah, That in itself is something.
It's something.
Nothing is the absence of anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So nothing is not even a thing, let alone everything coming from it. Right? The next question would be, did what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He says, Am humul khaliqun? Yes? Or are they the creators of themselves? And we can apply this to us as humans, and we can apply it to everything else that exists. Is it possible that everything that exists came from something like it? I mean, if you think about me and you and everyone watching, yeah, if human beings made human beings, why would we need to make something that already exists? Coming into existence means that it was not there before. Understand? So it doesn't make sense that something that was there created the same thing. Understand? So we can throw that one out as well. And the question that obviously the only one left is that it must have come from something, right? And this something is, there's a saying that said, that if you take a baby, yani an infant, and imagine this infant, and obviously if the infant didn't need diaper changes and it didn't need someone to feed it, yeah? Imagine if it had all these things provided for it, yeah? And you left it on an island by itself, and it had no human influence at all. That baby would grow up to believe that there's a creator, right? And why do we say this? Why do we say this? We say this because when we give, we use this a lot.
What do you mean we say we? You
We,
keep saying.
I would say we. I mean, first of all, we would say any person that believes that a creator exists would agree with this statement. And the reason why they would agree with this statement is because of the argument I'm gonna bring forward now, right? So we brought the Quranic argument, yes, which is the strongest arguments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you're speaking to non-Muslims, and even this, sometimes when you're even speaking to Muslims, it's sometimes you find it difficult to use the Quran. I'll be honest with you, right? Some Muslims, they grew up reading, learning the Quran, yes, but the yaqeen, or the certainty, the truth of the Quran hasn't entered the heart, yeah. And you can kind of tell this in their hesitation to just accept. You tell them the ayah and they say okay, right? And we'll say, listen, if that is the case, what needs to be done is they need to hear the same arguments that we would give to a person that's not a Muslim. Why? Because in logic, there's a thing known as circular reasoning, yeah, meaning that you can't use something to prove that thing, yeah. So if you're speaking to someone that is an atheist or an agnostic, meaning they don't disbelieve, nor do they believe, they're just, I don't know, right? You can't. It's difficult for them to accept using the Quran to prove the Quran
Because they don't believe in it.
Right, exactly. So they would consider that
like and to make the Muslim viewers understand what we're talking about, it's like someone trying to convince you about another religion by using their own book.
Yeah.
And we're gonna tell them, I don't even believe in it.
Yeah.
Like why are you bringing me verses from your book? I don't believe in it.
For sure. And we would say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's one of the it's the only religion that tells you to what? Use your brain. Yeah. And use your intellect. Yes. Or use your intellect and you'll see the truth in it. Yeah. And from our intellect we would come to the conclusion of a creator, and that it's the only thing that can be possible.
How?
Yeah.
Like what way?
Sure. I'll give you a few of the arguments that prove God's existence.
Yeah.
Right? Or Allah's existence. And
yeah, that's what I want to go to. Like, what's the proof?
So, the first thing you can discuss that we would use to prove God's existence is what we call causation, right? And causation is the idea that every effect has a cause. The universe was an effect, therefore it must have a cause. And I'll explain it, yeah? I have a 2-year-old baby, yeah?
Mama,
And my son, he's 2 years old, right? He's 2 years old, and if I tap him on the shoulder, he's not a human being that has high intellect yet. He doesn't even know how to speak yet. But if I go behind him and I tap him on the shoulder, he knows to turn around. Why? Because he knows that that couldn't have happened without something making it happen. So he's going to turn around looking for it, right? We would say that every single thing is an effect. And the universe itself has an effect. If you ask somebody that believes in science, we as Muslims, we love science, and maybe that's a topic for another video as far as the Islamic civilization's influence on science. Yeah, I think that's a whole separate video.
yeah.
But the point I'm making is that if you ask any physicist today, yeah, what is the beginning of the universe? 99% of them are going to say the Big Bang Theory, right? The Big Bang Theory is the theory that matter was condensed into one singular mass, if you will. Yes, and then something caused it to
Explode.
boom, exactly, explode or expand.
Yeah.
Yeah. What gives us, and the evidence that we have that this is most likely true in science is that we have an expanding universe, right? If you look at matter in space, it's constantly expanding out.
But
So basically, if you press rewind on it, if it's constantly going like this, if you press rewind on the timeline of the universe, before that it was together. Now the question is what caused it to explode? Something had to cause it, right? And if you ask any scientist, because they have to believe that something caused it. Scientists believe that everything has a natural cause. Yeah. And then they say, well, we haven't discovered it yet.
yeah.
Okay, fine. What if tomorrow we discover it? The next logical question would be, what caused that? And then we discover it in 1,000,000 years. The next question would be, what caused that? And the question is is it possible to have an infinite amount? This caused this caused this caused forever, infinity. And the answer is no. And I'll give an example as to why it's no. Yeah. Imagine, the We Rise Soccer, yeah?
Yeah.
Game got canceled. We would have won. But that's besides. Yeah. Imagine that the game is tied after 2 periods of extra time and it's going to penalty shootouts, yeah? And the person standing in front of the goal is going to shoot the ball, right? And the ball being shot, imagine that's the universe. That is the Big Bang, yeah?
No.
In order for him to take the shot, he needs the referee to blow the whistle, yeah? And now imagine if this referee needed another referee to blow the whistle. And that one needed another one. And that one needed... And imagine if this went on forever.
I don't think the We Rise could afford this many referees.
I don't know, but the point is that you wouldn't need them. Why? Because if you had an infinite number of referees blowing the whistle, the shot will never be taken.
Damn.
So, in other words, you need someone that caused it, that nothing caused him. Yeah? And we would say that this is that you can apply this to the universe. If the universe has a cause, even if it has 3 causes, 5 causes, 1,000,000 causes before it, the point is that it still needs a cause that happened before it that nothing could cause it before. It's the first cause that has no cause before it. And we would say that this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who wal awwal, right? He is the first. Yeah, this is what means. Yeah, exactly. So we would say that this is one way of using what we call what we would say is our reasoning, using our brain, our intellect, to come to the conclusion that God must exist.
No.
There must be something out there. Now, even if you do this and you say, okay, God must exist, he has to exist. No. The question still is as to what kind of God is it? Because this argument doesn't answer what characteristics God has, what attributes does he have. No. Yeah. So you would have to continue in this questioning, right, to figure out these things, yeah. And you would look, and that leads us to the second argument, right? And I'm not going to spend too much time on them because I don't want to take too much time up. Yeah. But right, so the next argument would be the teleological argument, or what we would call the argument from design, meaning that what you look that you look at the design of the universe itself and you say that this thing must have came from something that, for example, had knowledge, right? If two hydrogen atoms combine with one oxygen atom to make water, this thing that caused it must have had knowledge of that, right? It must have had knowledge of it, right? Or you can go on and on for the solar system and the galaxies and all the planets, going around in orbit. All of these things require precise calculation. Yeah, it said that if the Earth was a centimeter, one whatever it was, the smallest amount or distance closer to the sun, then we'd all burn and die. And if it was the smallest amount of farther away from the sun, then we would freeze and die, right?
Allah.
So it's to an exact calculation,
That can't.
and this shows
It's
knowledge
just logically speaking, that can be just
by chance.
coincidence.
No,
Coincidence.
it can't be, right? And we would say not only that, we would say obviously this creator, right? From looking at the design, we would say because it's so vast, he must have power over it. There's no way that this creator does not have more power than what he created.
No.
Yeah. And we can go on and on. Yes, as to the
Allah, I'm telling you, this question within itself takes days to answer.
Of course, we can go on and on. Yani, and I'll just leave on one more thing, right? And I think it applies in this one thing that we use to prove God's existence can be an episode in itself, right?
No.
Which morality. Morality meaning determining what's right and what's wrong, right? The question is,
how do we
either
how do we know what's right?
No, exactly. The question is if Allah exists or he doesn't exist, is there a right and wrong? That's the question, right? And like I said, this would require its own video in determining, but we would say that the only way that right and wrong exist is because God exists, right? Because we would say right and wrong has to be objective. And like I said, we can save that one for a different objective.
Of course. Now, I just want to add, and this all was summarized by a Bedouin man. One Bedouin man, once he was asked, قالوا له كيف تعرف ربك? How do you know your God exists? Right? And he said that the footsteps or the camel dung, right, indicates that there is camels.
No, exactly, bro. That's a you could say that a man that was probably illiterate and he didn't read or write.
Yeah, but
he
used his own imagination, own mind, right? He said, and then he went and said the donkey dung indicates that donkeys
exist.
Exist.
Yeah, no.
And he says the footprints. He said that because he was in a desert. Obviously, you could see the footprints, and he said the footprints indicates that there is travelers, right? قال, so as the sky, with its constellation, right, and the sea with its waves, do not those indicate the all-knowing and the all-powerful existence?
No.
This is what he said. He said, ألا يذل.
That is very simply put, but it's very telling. If I could just add one more story as to whether Allah exists. Yes.
No.
At the time of Imam Abu Hanifa, who was one of the four imams of fiqh that we have in Islam, right?
No.
At his time, he was a young boy that grew up in the area of Persia, right? In the area of Persia, right? Near Iraq and what's today Iran, yes? In this land, right? And at that time, this is around about 4 centuries after the Prophet ﷺ. Excuse me, before that, right? Before that a little bit. Maybe about 200 years after the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, at the time, the Persians were heavily influenced, and the Romans were the two major empires at the time of Islam. At this time, they were heavily influenced by philosophy. Okay, and Abu Hanifa, as a young child, he came across arguments that were philosophical, yeah, and as to like where did the universe come from, and people basically what just thinkers. Philosophy is a way of thinking, but they use their own brain and nothing else. Yes, so you can see where that can go wrong. So at the time, the Romans seen this Islamic civilization expanding, and they sent some of their philosophers, and they said we're gonna disprove these Muslims with just a couple questions. So they went to the land where Abu Hanifa was, yeah, and Abu Hanifa at the time was a young boy, no older than 10 years old, yeah, and
10
at
years
the
old?
time I was a young kid, yeah,
Wow.
and at the time when you go to the town, there was like a town center, yeah, like it had like where everyone met in the middle of the town, yeah, in the village, yeah. So these Romans, they come into the town, right, and they say we have three questions
We're
that
gonna
if
challenge, huh?
these three questions, if we ask them, we're gonna ask them, and it's gonna destroy your religion, yeah. And they said these three questions, we're gonna ask you them, and your religion is done. The first question was if Allah created everything, then what created Allah?
Mm.
Yeah. The second question is what direction is Allah facing right now? Yeah. Or the third question is what is Allah doing right now?
Mm.
Okay. Abu Hanifa, who's a young boy, he's with his father, right? And he father permission to go and reply to them. So his father gives him permission to go reply to them. And Abu Hanifa's father was min al-tabi'een, so the predecessors after the companions. Yes.
Allah.
So Abu Hanifa's father allows him to go and reply to the men.
Yes.
And he asked to your first question. Your first question was, if Allah created everything, then what created Allah? And he asked the man, he said, count back from 10. Yes. So the man counted 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And he said, then and what's before 1? He said 0. He said, so even your own mind tells you that before 1, there was none. Yeah? He said, ask your second question. Your second question was...
Wait. Before you go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you go on.
Yeah.
This is before there was 1. He answered, he said, there's none.
No, exactly, because he told him count back 10. His whole point was to show him that when you get to 1, before the first thing, there's nothing. So yani what before
It
the
has to
first
be
thing?
1.
Yani yeah,
You had to
answer
start with 1. Everything had to start with 1.
start with 1, because nothing, as we said before, nothing is not even a thing, let alone everything coming from it. Yes. The second was where is Allah facing? And he said, if you go to a dark room and you light a candle, what direction does the light from the candle face? He said, and to Allah is the best examples. Nurun ala nur. Yes, light upon light. So the light of Allah is greater than any candle light. Yani, and this answers the question as to what? Everywhere. Yani, there's nowhere that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't face, doesn't know, doesn't...
But just to clarify, because you said everywhere, but that is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees, right? And it's not like some that say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is literally everywhere, right?
No, we wouldn't say
Yeah,
he's literally.
yeah, exactly. So where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, al-arsh
Above.
he's above his creation.
Yes.
Okay. As the third question was what is Allah doing right now? And the man said, Abu Hanifa said, what Allah is doing right now is bringing the falsehood down and bringing the truth forward. Meaning what? Everything that's happening, Allah is doing, making sure that happens. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, meaning that this is showing that Allah is in control of everything that happens. And this was a young boy's response of answering these questions that might have, if we ask some of the students that we have, if we ask them, they might be stumped with these questions. Like, oh, I don't know how to answer that. And us as Muslims, we should be able to answer these questions with with
No,
certain. Yeah. Say it again.
no hesitation.
No hesitation. No.
Boom, right
Exactly.
there.
Yep.
Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
No.
I think, no, it's not, I think. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above
Yeah.
every,
No.
oh,
No.
above that, above everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the woman that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ask her. And she pointed up. They said, where's Allah? She's pointing up.
And she was a slave child, and he said, free her. She's a
Yeah.
mu'min. She's a believer, Yani.
You can't have her as a slave, free her, right?
No.
She
Yep.
believes. So subhanAllah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Now that leads us to the second question that I have for you today. Today is, okay. Now we know Allah Subhanahu wa Taala exists, right? And we know the answer to that. How do we know Allah Subhanahu wa Taala exists? We broke it down. Now, if Allah Subhanahu wa Taala exists, right? Then why does Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He wants us to believe He's the All Merciful, right? And then why do Allah Subhanahu wa Taala let bad things happen on earth?
Yeah.
Why is there disbelievers? Why is there Muslims oppressors? Why is things happening to the Muslims? In overseas, or why?
Yeah.
Like, if Allah Subhanahu wa Taala exists and He's the All Merciful, and He wants good for us.
This is a great question. So I see somebody wanted me to repeat something. I don't know. You want to just save it till the end or something, or
The third question of Abu Hanifa.
do you want me to repeat it now, or just save it till the end?
You could repeat it now.
So the question was the question that the Roman asked him was,
what is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala doing?
Yeah, what is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala doing? And his response was, what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is doing right now is bringing down the falsehood and bringing forward the truth.
Yeah.
Meaning what? He's proving that you're wrong and showing that I'm right. Meaning, in other words, what he's saying is that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, everything that's happening, that's what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is doing. He's in control of everything, including the conversation that they were having.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at, yani. But as to the question that you asked,
Yeah.
I'm just repeat the question just to make sure it was right. If Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is the most merciful, why do bad things happen?
No.
Yeah. And this is an argument that atheists come forward with.
Yeah.
And what we call the problem of
The problem of what? I'm sorry, you cut off.
Of evil. It's the problem of evil, yes. And they say that how can God exist when there's so much evil happening in the world?
No.
Okay. First things first, I'll answer as to the problem of evil. Even if, and this kind of ties into what we just talked about as far as Allah's existence, even if bad things happen, that by itself does not disprove that Allah exists.
No.
Even if bad things happened, yeah, that does not by itself say, okay, God doesn't exist because bad things happen.
And I think this came to my mind. Like, is it similar to, for example, a student failing? Does it prove that the teacher is not good?
I see where you made that. Yeah, I guess you can make that similarity, I guess. But as I said, as far as that's a nice way to put it, a simpler way to put it. But in other words, by itself, it doesn't mean that God doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The question, though, that's being asked is, why do bad things happen?
No.
This is the essence of the question. It has nothing to do with whether Allah exists, whether Allah is real.
Yeah, because we got to that part. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala exists.
Allah is real, whether bad things happen, good things happen, no matter what, whether nothing happens.
Yeah.
Allah, yeah? Now, why do bad things happen? And this is a question that goes into what we call, obviously, it's a pillar of Iman, one of the pillars of faith, yeah, which is al-qadar, right? And we would say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most knowledgeable. Yes, He's the most knowledgeable. He has the most knowledge. Yeah. And we would say that because Allah has more knowledge than we do, we might perceive something as bad when in reality it's not. For example, and I some of the students, they were in class when I gave this talk, but I'll give it because there's a lot of people that, right?
No.
And it's the story of Musa alayhi salam in Surah Al-Kahf, right? When he's traveling with with Al-Khadr. Yes, na'am. So he's traveling with Al-Khadr, and this man, he's traveling with this man, and he's told by Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires him and tells him that this man has knowledge that Musa alayhi salam doesn't have.
Yeah.
And Musa alayhi salam, being a person who he's a prophet of Allah, he loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he wants to get closer to Allah, and he wants to have knowledge of Allah. Yeah, he wants to have ilm. Yes.
No.
So what does he do? He travels to seek out this man. He wants to go find this man. And when he finally comes across the man tells him what? He says, he tells him he wants to travel with him so that he can learn from him. Yes. And the man tells him, he says, you're not going to have enough patience. Yeah. And the man, he tells him, he said, don't blame me for, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not giving the exact, but he's telling him, let me travel with you, and we'll see how it goes. In a nutshell, I'm paraphrasing, like I said. Yeah. So they end up traveling, and they come across people on a ship, and the people on the ship allow them to travel with them on the ship. So they go on the ship, and they're on the ship, and these people are kind to them. They're nice to them. They allow them on the ship, and before they leave the ship, this man, he goes and he puts a hole in the bottom in the ship. He puts a hole in the boat. Musa alayhi salam sees him, and he says, you put a hole in the boat to harm the people there?
Why? Because he's seen it as bad.
He's seen it as bad. Yeah. Musa alayhi salam seen this as something that he's doing as bad, saying that what? They helped us, and now you're harming them by putting a hole in their boat. The man tells him, what? Didn't I tell you weren't going to have enough patience? Right? So he says, okay, don't blame me for my shortcomings. Right? So he says, okay. So they end up traveling. Right? They continue their travel. And as they're traveling, they come across a boy. And this man sees the boy, and he kills the boy. Musa alayhi salam sees him killing this boy as something bad. And he says, you killed a boy. You killed the child. And what did this man say to him? He says, didn't I tell you weren't going to have enough patience? So he says, okay, that's it. That's the last one. If I do it again, then we're not going to be traveling companions anymore. We'll go separate ways. So he says, okay. So they continue their travel. And this is traveling in the what we call the cradle of the earth, right? The Middle East. Yeah. It's not cold. Yeah, it's hot. Right, and it's not like and back then it's not like there was big cities. You go traveling on the 90 highway, you just pull off an exit from the gas station. If you're traveling, you don't see people, or you don't have water. You don't see things for days. Yeah, so they're traveling, and they come across a town, and the people of this town are in the town, and Musa alayhi salam and the man, right? They go there and they ask them for sustenance to help them. Give them water, give them food, whatever it is. They're travelers. And the people refuse to help. They refuse to help them, and they send them on their way. As they're leaving the town, the wall around the town, a part of it was falling down. And the man goes and he fixes that part of the wall. He repairs it. Musa alayhi salam sees it as like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that when they were wrong to us? They rejected us. The least you could have did was got some payment out of it. Right, so we can eat, drink. And he says, okay, that's enough. That's the last straw. I told you weren't going to have enough patience, and now we're done. But before you go, I'm going to tell you why I did the things I did. So he goes through those three things. He tells them on the ship. As for the ship, when we left the ship, it was on its way to, in their path was a king. And this king, he would take any ships that he liked for himself. So I put a hole in it so that when the king sees it, he sees it as damaged and he doesn't take it. Yeah. He says, as for the child that I killed, he says this child had two righteous parents. Yeah. And his parents were believers in Allah. And this child was going to grow up to be so evil and commit sins so much that it would have forced his parents to disbelieve in Allah. His parents love their children, right? And sometimes they'll put that before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So he says what? He says, I killed him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to replace their child with a better child. Yeah. He says, as for the wall, he says, under the wall was a tree, and it belonged to two orphan boys, and their father was a righteous man. And if the people of the town would have found that treasure, they would have took it and never gave it to the orphans. So I repaired the wall so that way it can stay hidden until they grow older and they can find it. Right? And what does he say after? He says, and everything that I did was not from my knowledge. Right? It wasn't on his own, what we say, volition. It wasn't on his own. It wasn't for himself what he thought was right. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him that knowledge. Yeah. And this shows that what's the lesson that we learn from this story, right? The lesson that we learn in the story is that what you and I think is bad might not be bad. Yeah. And I give the example that if you're looking through a small part of a keyhole in a door, you see a man, he got a knife and he got a kid there and he's cutting it open and there's blood flying everywhere. He has blood all over. You're looking like, yo, this guy is killing this kid. What is he doing? Torturing a kid. So you bust down the door, and then after you bust down the door, you see that that's a doctor. And the kid is having surgery. He's saving the kid's life. Yeah? In other words, what you might perceive, because our knowledge is so limited, what we think is bad might not really be bad, because why? We don't have all of the knowledge. And I think you gave an example when last time, if you want to give it now, about the car accident, right? If you're driving in a car, yeah, and you're driving in a car, and you get hit by a car, you get into an accident, and you say, "Oh my God, man, I got hit by a car, and I don't know what happened." But what if Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, because He has more knowledge than you, He put that car there for you to hit, because if you didn't hit it, there was going to be someone that crossed the road and you were going to hit them and kill them.
Allah. There's actually another story, subhanAllah, that I was reading about, that there was a man that he was at the airport,
Yeah.
right? And that was a long time ago. And he slept, and he overslept in the airport and missed his flight. And he was just going crazy. He's going crazy. It's an important flight that he missed, and he was going crazy. A few hours later, he finds out that plane crashed, and every person in that plane passed away.
Wow, subhanAllah. And you know, while when he missed his flight, he was probably thinking, "Oh my God, I had things to do. I probably missed, I don't know whatever it was. Whatever. If he was supposed to have surgery on the other side of the flight, and if he didn't have it, something was gonna, whatever, bro. The point is that what we think is bad, even this person that went through this, what we perceive as bad might not be as bad as what you think.
Nah, subhanAllah. And back to the question, why do Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let bad things happen? Then we explained some. And in Arabic, I have here a note. It's called فكرة التضاد, right? Meaning أن الشيء لا يعرف إلا بضده. That something will not be found except with the opposite of it. For example, if you want to know what's good, then how would we know what's good if bad didn't exist?
Yeah.
Right? If how would we know it's weak if strong didn't exist? Right? And how would we know the sadaqah is good if poor didn't exist?
No, exactly. Yeah, great point.
And how would you know that you succeeded if failing doesn't exist?
Exactly. That's a great point, Wallah. That's a great point. And all of the things, failing, being poor, we might see all of those bad, right? But it's what you're getting at is that they have to exist. That bad has to exist so that we know the good.
No.
If there was no bad, then what is good?
Yeah, and it says here in this logic, التضاد, it says فنجد أن قمة المتعة عادة تأتي بعد قمة الألم. That means that we find that the most happiest achievement comes after going through a lot. You know, if you go through a lot, like let's say, you know, you're at the bottom of it, you know, you're struggling and all that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just opens up the door for you.
SubhanAllah. And this might be wisdom behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, Inna ma'al usri yusra. Right? After difficulty comes ease, He appreciate it more. Just the last thing off this question, because qada al-qadar, like having to do with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we say it's God's plan, Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has everything written. Yeah, this is basically what we're getting at, right? And I just want to share this hadith that I think we talked about it last time, that where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Ajaban li amr al-mu'min," right? He says, "Wondrous is the affair of the believer." Yes, if bad comes to him, if good comes to him, then he has patience and he thanks Allah. And if bad comes to him, then he has patience and thanks Allah. And this is for no one except the believer. Yeah. So يعني, even if Allah has bad, if there's bad things that Allah created. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Allah has bad. Astaghfirullah. Yeah, what I meant was Allah has created things that are bad. He allows bad things to happen to some of us. Yeah. As a believer, as a mu'min, we know that when we go through these things, يعني Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. It's our free card, يعني. But inshallah, that answered the question.
SubhanAllah, like that's the life of a Muslim.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you find, like, alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some Muslims just, they're happy, man. They're just, you know, it's why stress yourself, you know? It's from Allah.
Yeah.
From Allah, you know? We're not here to enjoy our life forever. We're gonna die.
Alhamdulillah,
You know?
bro.
And you know, this phrase that YOLO, right? You only live once, right?
Yeah.
I agree with it. Disagree with the explanation of their side.
Yeah.
But I agree with it. You know, you only live once. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So
The difference that we have is what do we do with it? That's
yes.
what...
Okay, that will lead us to the next question, which is, we have like 2-3 more questions, right?
Yeah.
If Allah knows everything, good and bad, right? Because we talked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let bad things happen because He knows what's good for you, what's bad for you, and both actually, whatever comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good.
Yeah.
That we don't know, right?
No.
So if He knows all that, and as Muslims we believe that we have, you know, we're musayyarun wa mukhayyarun, we're guided, right? And we also have free will, like free choice, right?
Yeah.
Then if He knows that, right, then how do I have free will? Because He knows everything, right? He's the all knowledgeable. He's the most knowledgeable, right? He knows everything. He actually knows everything before He created everything by 50,000 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like mentioned in the hadith. So then in a way, why are we here? You know, He already knows where we're going.
Yeah. So
for hellfire, right?
I can just, I'll like restate the question and then tell me if it's right.
No.
So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determines everything, how do we have free will?
No.
Okay. I'll tell you. And there is 3 schools of thought when it comes to this. Yeah. And I'm not talking from an Islamic paradigm. Not from an Islamic paradigm. From a Western academic paradigm, there are 3 schools of thought when it comes to these things. When it comes to free will or determinism. The first is determinism, right? Determinism is the idea that every single thing that happens is determined by a causal chain, right? Meaning that if I put this on my lips, yeah? Why did I do that? Because my lips were dry. Why were my lips dry? Because it's cold outside. Why is it cold outside? Because the Arctic, I don't know what pressure, but why is that? Because the earth, but you can go on and on and on, right? And determinism says that everything that happens is determined by this chain. Yeah? That's the first school of thought. The second, and they say that what? Free will doesn't exist. Nothing is free will. Because why? Because everything is determined by this. I didn't put this on because I wanted to. I put it on because this and because that and that and that. This is the first school. The second school of thought is, and this, by the way, this determinism, we can't deny it, that everything happens because something. Yeah, it's not deniable. The other school of thought is free will, right? And they say that what? That everything happens because of free will. Why? Because every single one of us as human, we experience this. Everyone that joined this life experienced what? Clicking on it because they wanted to. Understand? So everyone has that experience. I just experienced putting this on because I wanted to. I could have not done it. Everyone that clicked this live could have chose not to do it. Understand? And this is undeniable as well. But they say that everything happens because of free will. The third school is what we call compatibilism. They say that what? Determinism is 100% true. It's true. You can't deny it. Free will is also undeniably true. And they both exist at the same time. And we would say Islam falls under this idea of compatibilism. We say both of these exist at the same time. Now, the question that you're asking is how? How do they both exist at the same time? And I'll tell you this now. No one has given an answer to that. No one has an answer to that. Even us as Muslims, we don't have the answer to it. But we have the only explanation to it. Understand? We don't have, in other words, what we call al-kayfiyya, the howness of it. We don't know how they exist, but we have the explanation as to why they exist. Yes? There's a saying that says what? Allah determined that free will exists. Allah compelled us to have free will. Meaning what? Both of these things exist, and the only ones that have an explanation for it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determined that for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us free will. And one might ask, I guess this kind of leads to the question, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judge us then? Why do we have to be there? Obviously, we all know the ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And He also says in Surah Al-Mulk, He says, the ayah, subhanAllah, slipping from my mind right now. No, in the beginning of the surah. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Right? He is the one who created life and death to see which one of you are better in deeds. Yani. So the question is why? If Allah knows already, why do we have to do it? Yeah? We believe that Allah, one of Allah's names is He's the most just, which is in Arabic, just is al-adl. Right? So we believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. The question is even if Allah knew what was going to happen, would it be just of Him to not test us? Imagine, we both have students, yeah? Imagine if we had our students, and we know, listen, no one knows our students and their academic level like we do. We're with them every day. We ask them questions. They're in class with us all the time. No one knows their level and how well they do or how bad they do like us, yeah? So now, I look at two students. One student, he passes all his tests. He does great all the time. And I know he's a good student. I know him. Yeah. The other one doesn't do anything at all. Never. He always fails. He always never does his work. Right? The question is would it be fair if I didn't give them the test just because I knew that? And especially too when there's a punishment. Right? If the one fails, and he fails, and I didn't test him, what does he have on the Day of Judgment? An excuse. He has an excuse to tell Allah, you didn't let me do it. Maybe I would have changed my mind. Yeah? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just, and this is why we have free will on top of Him determining. This is why He determined for us free will. If that answers the question. I know in there was a lot of terms.
No, there's more to it because the scholars have they said there's af'alun taqa'u alayh. There's things that happen to you, right?
Yeah.
And there's things that happens from you, right?
Yeah.
The things that happen, to you, these are determined by Allah, like you said, determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like for example, look at subhanAllah, the weather. This is determined.
No.
Now me going outside in that weather, it's my choice.
Yeah.
This is from me, right? And that's the free will. Determined is the wind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed the weather. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this wind happen, the storm, right?
Yeah.
Then He gave me a choice. You stay home, stay safe, or you want to just go outside, I don't know for what, but you chose to do that.
No.
That's free will,
yeah.
right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentions that in the Quran, right? That we do have free wills. And I'm going to tell you how. Al-Qasr, killing a person. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى ومن قتل مسلما خطأ. And if a person kills a Muslim by accident, that means it's not his will. It's not free will. It was by accident. It was determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Then he says what he should do, then تحرير رقبة and so on, right? Then he says, and whoever kills intentionally, meaning his what?
His intention was that
It's free will. He chose to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Then he says, then he is in the hellfire because that was his choice.
No.
First he told us, if he was determined by Allah, then he was determined by Allah.
Yeah.
He didn't say he's going to go to hellfire. He said, however, there's things that he needs to do because he still killed us all. Right? But he was determined by Allah. It's not his choice. It was by accident. Car accident, whatever the case might be, right?
Yeah.
And then the second one is he with his intentions, he wanted to do it.
Yeah, no. I think the point, the caveat to add in there is even the things that we determine, we use as free will, we would say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determined that as well.
No.
And this is why, like, even if you want to kill someone and you kill them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determined that too. Why? Because He knew that you would do it.
I think part of this question is, does qadr change?
Yeah, no, definitely not. If it's written in al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted that to happen. Now, let's say, if
the answer to al-qadr changes, the answer is yes.
Well, if I just tell you, if I'll just like, I mean, this is I mean, because we're kind of saying two different answers, but I'll say what.
So can I just mention what I have?
Sure, go ahead.
About al-qadr. Okay, al-qadr is divided into four, right? تقدير في اللوح, right? اللوح المحفوظ, the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote before the al-khalaiq, before the creations of all things by 50,000 years.
Yeah.
That qadr does not change.
That's what
that's determined. It does not change. Right?
Yes.
And then there's qadr al-umri, right? When you're born, when you're in the stomach or the womb of your mother, right? That qadr changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a qadr, yearly qadr. One, we all know, Laylatul Qadr.
No.
On the night of Al-Qadr, it descends down. The Malaika has no idea what's going to happen for that year. Laylatul Qadr is when it happens. Now the Malaika knows this is going to happen. This is for this person. This is for this person. And every Malak is busy on that night, mashallah. Right? Then there's the Qadr, the daily Qadr. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rahman, كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. Every day he's busy making this person sick, curing this person, taking away this from this person, giving this person a son, a daughter, taking the soul of this person, and so on, right? That's the daily qadr. Now, the only qadr that does not change is the first one. Allah al-Mahfuz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's going to happen. The rest, it's free will.
Can I, because, and this is where I think, where I was tied into what I was saying, is that everything that's written at Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz does not change. Now, let's say somebody wants to, they're going to commit a sin, and they commit the sin, and then or they don't commit the sin, and they ask Allah for forgiveness, or they change their mind, yes? We would say that this is obviously the qadr that changes in the day, but it was written in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz that this would happen, that it would change, So, I think.
Yes, but that's because the knowledge of Allah is different than our knowledge.
Yes.
Right? So, like, I give it a thought, right? When I was taking notes before we started the live, I said, how can I explain this in a simple way, like a real life, right? And I'm a teacher, so I thought about it from my side, right? I said, Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the highest example. It's like a school, right? that has a curriculum that the teachers have to follow. Does that curriculum change? No,
No.
absolutely
Yeah.
not. This is the curriculum. You must follow that curriculum. Does not change. Then the teacher has a yearly plan. Okay, throughout the year, I'm gonna break down this.
Yeah.
Could that change?
Of course.
As a teacher,
Yeah.
yes.
We
Yes, sometimes,
canceled school yesterday. We have to change it.
yes. Right? Could that change? No, throughout the year. I'm not saying the daily because we're gonna get
Oh,
to the
okay.
daily.
Okay. Yes.
Throughout the
Yes.
year, yes. My plan is first quarter to finish chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible for I only finish chapter 1 and 2 and not reach 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, right? But am I gonna get to chapter 3? Yes. Does the curriculum say reach chapter 3? Yeah. Does it tell me when quarter 1, 2, or 3 or 4? No, it doesn't tell me. It just tells me do this. Finish the book by the end of the year, right? Now, then we have the daily, right? SubhanAllah, like you said, today we had plans, today, Friday, that we're supposed to do this in class. Guess what? Changed. So, it's,
Yeah.
we have, like you said, SubhanAllah, the Lawh al-Mahfuz is not going to change.
No.
And that's from the knowledge of Allah. That's His knowledge. I mean, you can't say this happened without the knowledge of Allah. Then what makes Him Allah? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, if you're a father, mashallah, Allahumma barik, when your son grows up and something happens within the house, right? And you don't know. And then you find out from others. Is that going to be a problem?
Definitely.
Of course. Like coming from your son himself, and people are going to say, wow, Nail doesn't know what's going on within his household. Yeah. Right? So it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, and us as human beings, we get offended by that. Wow,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on within my household. And how can a person say that about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yeah. Like that's His knowledge. He knows. He's supposed to know. He is Allah.
No.
Allah. So that answers the third question. I don't know if that's good for today or you guys want to continue. I don't know. People are just home. I don't know if they want to keep going or.
How many questions were there?
2 more. There's 2 more left.
I think we could do this 2 more. We'll keep them brief as possible, though. I mean, because those other 3 we kind of went into detail.
Yeah.
So, because
they have the free will of.
They have the free will to stay or leave. At least 2, whatever you guys want. You got free will. No, but like I said, I mean, I think because this is important stuff, man. It's
very, very,
for young people. Like I said, these kind of questions are as you said, aqidah. You know what I mean? This is our core belief. Our everything that we believe. Right, bro. You can. We teach our young kids, bro. You have to Ramadan. You have to, bro. All of that means nothing if you don't have these things, bro. You have to have, bro. It's our core. Without the core, all the it doesn't matter.
The parents have to understand. We're not questioning Allah, right? We're not saying why am I gonna do this? Like, no. I mean, it's better to know. It's like, you
have to understand.
That's your deen.
If you're a parent, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, like I said, it's the only faith. And trust me, like coming across people from all different types of Christians and Jews and bro, these other faiths, they're taught not to ask. Yeah, if you're Christian, don't ask how Jesus is God and the Holy God. Don't. It's just faith.
No.
You just gotta believe. Islam tells us what? Use your brain, use your intellect. And at the end, you're still going to come to the conclusion. That what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determines free will, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever He wills, if it's bad or good, is the best. You know what I mean? And on and on, But I think you should continue. A lot of people are saying continue.
Nah. And just to make sure that they understand what we mean. Because in the Quran, it says, and it is not for the believers, إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَنْ يَكُونَ لَهُمَ الْخِيَرَةِ. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His messenger order us that they have the choice.
Mm.
You know, it's not up to us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And that goes through the questions that we did. Like, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exist? You know, how do we know He exists? And we answered these questions, and that's why we're saying that. We're not just saying that and do it blindly.
Mm.
Like, just do it, right? But at the end of the day, it's very important that we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. This is why bad things exist, right? Like we answered the second question. And the third question, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that this is going to happen or where I'm going, then why are we here, right? And we answer that question as well. So we come to the conclusion of, I have to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Now, the next question is, Islam. Right?
These are 5 questions, by the way, man.
Yeah, 2 more questions. Why is Islam so difficult? Why do I have to give up so much as a Muslim?
That's a good question, man.
I'm
okay.
coming at you today.
Good. Real good, bro. That's real good. Like I said, I said, bro, most of these questions, I hear them, and a lot of the times they're not coming from Muslims, right? But I know it. You know,
we
know
hear them. Look, we hear them from non-Muslims. We see them in Muslims.
Yeah, 100%. You see them in Muslims. That's a great, bro. That's a great point. You see them in Muslims, but they don't ask. So, bro, if I think we should answer it, inshallah, from we see people start. Their actions are different, inshallah, all of us. But so the question is why is Islam so hard? Why are we restricted from so much of the fun things of what we think is what we think we want, right? And I'll answer this starting off with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says when He says أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. Right? Have you seen the one who took his desires as his Lord? Yeah? Have you seen the one who took his desires as his Lord? You know, the question as to why does Islam hard, or why does Islam ban everything? Yeah?
Is that true within itself, though?
No, first of all, that's not true. I think that perception, though, comes from what we live in today. Yeah?
No, it's very important.
It's from what we live in. Yeah? So, I'll tell you what, bro. If we see that Islam is what's the word I want to use? Forbidding everything, then it's not Islam that is wrong. It's that is everything that is bad is around you.
Like, for example, I just came to my mind.
Yeah, sure.
Like, for example, was PlayStation 5 fun 20 years ago? No, because it didn't exist.
Just there. That's a great point. But
so what was fun for them?
Yeah, that's a great point, bro. So I'll tell you this. Like I'll give you. I'll tell you what I tell. This is what I tell like non-Muslims that
just clarify this. So now it's fun for us because that's what we think is fun. But back then, going outside and play soccer,
it wasn't there.
But playing soccer was.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll just like to the question as to why does Islam forbids everything that we want in a nutshell. Yeah. There's something that I tell non-Muslims that like even after we go through all the things they still refuse. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sealed their hearts or whatever it is. Yeah. I leave them with this. I say, you know, Islam, even if a person does not accept Islam and they live by the rules of Islam, their life will be better. Why do I say that? Because Islam, it prevents what we call the 5 poisons. That if these 5 poisons are done, then your life will be worse. And if these 5 poisons are avoided, your life will be better. What are these 5 poisons? The first of the 5 poisons is sexual immorality, what we call zina. Yeah? Sexual immorality. That even if you're not a Muslim, if you don't do this thing, then your life will be better. Because we know what this can lead to, how much negativity it can lead to. It can lead to children that don't have two parents in the household. It can lead to diseases. It can lead to, we can go on and on as to the bad things that happen from zina. Yeah? The second thing is gambling. The second poison is gambling. Islam prevents you from forbids you to gamble. Okay? If Islam if even if one follows this and they're not Muslim, their life will be better. Why? Because gambling, it takes people's wealth away. It ruins families, right? It ruins lives, and no one benefits from it except the one that's taking all the money. Yeah, there's a story about a guy that was in Detroit, and he went into the casino, and everything he owned, everything. He went and he got a mortgage on his house, everything that he owned. He went to the he was already in debt, but he took his last thing, and he went to the casino and he bet it and lost it all, and he blew his brains out right there in the casino. He killed himself in the casino. Yeah. So, and you can see how gambling can lead down this dark road. This is the second poison that Islam prevents. The third poison is alcohol. Islam prevents alcohol, or it forbids alcohol. And alcohol, we can easily see the negative effects of it. Damage to the body, damage to families. A man comes home, he's drunk, he beats his wife. Yeah. A man is drunk and he doesn't want to go to work because all he wants to do is be drunk. He can't hold the job. Yeah. On and on. Yeah, we can go on to the negative things of alcohol. Right. The fourth is drugs. I mean, any types of drugs, whatever they are, whether it's marijuana, weed, pills, cocaine, whatever it is. All of these are bad. They're bad for your body. Not only are they bad for your body, you're not in a clean mind state to how do I want to put this? Function. I'll just put it like that. You can't function daily, right? Let alone all of the violence that comes and on and on.
No.
Yes. So that's the fourth, and the last one is riba, interest dealings. Yeah. How many people have mortgages on their house, and what happens when you can't pay your mortgage? They come and take your house. You're out on the street, right? What happens when I mean, even if you have a mortgage, right, and they deem you not to have good credit, so they slam you with interest, high interest rate, and you end up paying double the amount of your house that you even that was worth, right? No one benefits from it except the person that is making money, and eventually it'll harm them too. But that's a separate conversation, right? So my point is that Islam prevents you from these 5 poisons, right? And it forbids these 5 things. And the point that I'm making is that everything that Islam forbids is better for you, even if you don't think it, right? I mean, what does Islam prevent? Give me an example of something, anything, bro.
I'm gonna give you an example.
Sure.
Right. In the time of Halloween that night, I just want the candy. I just want to go have fun. You know, it's just
Islam forbids you to do that. Yes. First things first, candy's gonna give you cavities. That's the first thing. Boom. All that candy is gonna give you diabetes. What else? So that's the first thing. Second thing is what Islam is preventing you from dealing with. When do people go trick-or-treating? What time do they go? What are they waiting for to go trick-or-treating? This Christian, Yanni. Right? Yeah. When do people go trick-or-treating?
when?
Yeah, when? I'm not asking the day, but like what time?
Like after Maghrib, Isha.
Nighttime, right? Nighttime, when it's dark. What else happens at night? Everything. Listen, if you think of any criminals, any drug dealing, anything bad that happens, even people that are committing zina, right? When do they go and they meet up with people? At night. Everything that's bad happens at night. And a holiday that people go out at night to celebrate in itself should raise red flags. Whoa, I don't know if I should be doing this. Let alone there's a video on One Truth Foundation about that, about the origins of it and where does it come from. And yeah, and he's celebrating Gil. us as Muslim, يعني, is celebrating shayateen. You know what I mean? Us
Sure.
as Muslim, yeah, bro. We want to get closer to Allah, closer to the malaika. We love the angels. Not the thing that celebrates the exact opposite. You know what I mean? So, and the point is that everything that Islam forbids, don't take
What's
it
wrong?
as don't.
What's wrong with music? Why Islam like doesn't want me to listen to music?
I mean,
I'm telling you, Sad, Islam just keeps me away from so many things, man.
I mean, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I mean, that's a good question for me. I think, right? As far as music goes, bro. I don't know if anyone knows this more than me firsthand. What the influence of music having on your life does to your lifestyle, bro. Especially, I'm sorry, especially the music of today. Oh my God, bro, bro? It changes your mentality. If you're listening to music that is talking about relations with women. It's talking about whether I don't care if you're talking about rap music, even country music. You're talking about drinking a beer, going out with a woman, dancing. I don't know what the heck they talk about. The point is that that music has an influence on one's mentality, right? The question is that mentality going to bring you closer to Allah or farther to Allah? And every Muslim asks themselves this honestly. Honestly, the music that you listen to, is it going to bring you closer to Allah or farther away? And if you answer that honestly, I think it's going to be very clear as to why Islam bans it. Why it's not allowed. And it all goes back to that ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, have you seen the one who takes his desires as his Lord? Yeah, you do what you like because you like it, bro. You're taking that's your ilah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're saying that the one that follows that instead of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them, you're taking that as your Lord. You're taking your own desire as your Lord. This is for what atheists do. This is not the actions of a Muslim. Atheists, what they say that they don't believe in God. That at the end of the day, who is their God? Their own desires, what they want to do, what they don't want to do. That's their Lord. And this action is not for a Muslim. It's not for a mu'min. And as I said, like earlier when I talked about like right and wrong, that question would be great for that conversation as to how we know what's right and what's wrong and why it's important to know what's right and what's wrong. And maybe we can have that at a different time because.
No, just touch on it a little bit so they could know what we're
So,
talking about when we say what's right, what's
so
wrong. Like, who determines what's right and what's wrong? Who determines that?
that's a great question.
Because there's things right now they are right, but back then was not right. As it's not even from Muslim perspective, right? Because Islam doesn't change. The Islamic law, the Islamic aqidah does not, and the Sharia does not change. Right?
I'll give a quick run through on
So like
how we
yeah,
wrong and
go ahead.
where do we know morality is right and wrong, and how do we know what is moral and what is immoral, right? And so either there's two choices: either we decide what's right and what's wrong, or it comes from somewhere else. Yeah. If it's us that determine what's right and what's wrong, then all of us, we all have different views. We all have different opinions. We all have different experiences. So if it was us that determines what's right and what's wrong, we would all have different.
Like for example, I'm just gonna give you an example. Worldly matter, right? Not even Islamically,
Sure.
right? I think this is just an example. Okay.
Hypothetical.
I think Ford is better than Chevy.
Yeah, sure.
Right. But
Okay.
you think
that
Chevy is better than Ford.
This is what we call subjective. Yeah. If it's an opinion, it's subjective. I'll give an example for something that's in front of me. Yeah. Poland Spring is the best water. Is that subjective or objective? You would just
better because it's cheaper.
Okay, Wesley Farms is cheaper, you say, yeah? Wesley Farms is cheaper, I say Poland Spring. This is and this is what happens. This is what happens when we use ourselves, human beings use our own minds to determine what is true.
And enforce it.
Yes. Now, this is water. Is any human being going to disagree? No human would disagree. Yeah. Now the question is can what's right and what's wrong be an opinion, or does it need to be something that is what we call objective, just like saying this is water, something that doesn't change no matter who you ask? Yeah. Obviously, if you ask someone that doesn't believe in Allah, or even some Muslims, unfortunately, if you ask them, you know, what's right and wrong, they're like, well, what's right? That's your opinion. Yeah, that's okay for you to think that's right. I just don't think that's right. You might think homosexuality is right. I just don't think it's right. That's not, whatever. If you want to do whatever you want to do, that's okay. But I don't think that's right. The problem is that we're not the ones who are saying, I believe it's wrong because I think it's wrong. That's not our opinion. Anything that we say is wrong or right is because Allah tells us. Why? Because we say that it has to be objective. It has to be fact. Just like this is water. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? And you just answer them. Is killing a baby right or wrong?
Wrong.
Wrong. What if, and imagine that you're a person that thinks that that right and wrong is an opinion. Yeah? So you say it's wrong. That's your opinion?
No, that's
not you. Take yourself. This is not Said Ahmed. This is a hypothetical. Imagine you're somebody else, right? If you're somebody that believes it's an opinion, and you believe that it's your opinion that killing babies is wrong, yeah? And then I ask you, what if there's an island of people that they think that it's okay to kill babies? It's in their culture to kill babies, and that's just what they do. Is it wrong for them?
no.
A person that believes that it's opinion is going to say, that's their opinion. And tell me that that's not crazy. A person that thinks that it's okay for some people to kill babies.
They voted it out.
Exactly. The point is that right, wrong shouldn't be up to people to vote in or vote not. Why? What if people want to vote that killing babies is okay? Or what if people want to vote that it's okay for a mother to kill her son? The point is that it has to be something that is concrete, that never changes. Otherwise, people are going to do crazy things. Just like today, 100 years ago, homosexuality in this country was punishable by death. Today, if you don't believe in homosexuality, something's wrong with you. You see how you take a turn quick if it's up to opinion, how society can degrade quick. What happens in 100 years from now when people that want incest, a mother sleeping with her son or a brother and a sister, what happens when they come out in marches and they have their own flag and they say, we want incest rights. We just want to be happy. We want to love each other. Do we have to say that's okay? Are we going to say, hey, that's their opinion? My opinion is that it's wrong. No, the point is that it's wrong for everyone, no matter what. And that's the point. That if wrong, it's wrong all the time. So what Allah forbids is what is always forbidden. Yeah. If that, hopefully that.
It makes sense because even if we do apply that, it's not fair within itself. Like for example, like you use the example of homosexuality. I'll use a different example, like marijuana, right? Sure. So it was not legal, right?
Yeah.
And then people were going to jail for it and so on, right? Yeah. Now that some states that people went to jail for that now made it legalized, right?
Yep.
Then what do we say to those people that died in jail, for example, for that?
Yeah.
Or like, what do we do? Like that's oppression within itself.
Yep.
That's zulm. But if you have a system that does not change at all, no matter who votes, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
Period. This is it's not allowed.
Yeah.
This is a punishment for it. This is stealing, for example. All right. So some people might say, okay, in the future, one of the laws that gets passed, for example, this is an example, is stealing to feed the needy is okay.
Bro, all this is gonna be empty. All of us, I'm needy. Yeah. All of us are gonna be needy. Who's not gonna be needy? You know what I'm saying? It would lead to mayhem. Idea, and this is the society we live in, right? That right and wrong is made by voters, and we vote what's right and wrong. Listen, at the end of the day, that is gonna lead to mayhem, and we can see it happening in where we are. We can see it happening all over the world. The Western civilization is going through so many issues that it is. Why? Because they adopted this idea that us as human beings, we can figure out what's best for us. You know what I mean? So
But the one that created us
he,
knows what's best
he
for us.
knows what's best. He knows what's best. So where he forbid, if he said that something is not allowed, know that that's best for you.
Um,
I think these guys are talking about something else.
so and I think he's asking, 10th grade, and every year it's getting.
His question was up to a couple more comments, I think. Is there a dua to make me better, make my mom being bad because of school?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, just get in touch with One Truth Foundation or myself. And we'll text you.
Maybe we could do an episode on that too, man. Like on the value of school and knowledge. That's a good topic to do.
Yeah. So just to conclude this question, to move on to the last question that we have for today, is we come to conclusion that just follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells you,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be in great hands. In a way,
Yeah.
correct?
No.
After explaining it, of course.
Yeah.
So that's
We're in America. Yeah, we're in New York. Somebody just asked if are we in America?
so that's to conclude what we talked about so far, right? Now, last question.
Sure.
And you mentioned it, and I wanted to ask that question, but I didn't want to change the subject.
Okay.
If a person is a good person, you know, and throughout his life or her life, you know, he or she is doing amazing things.
Yeah.
Right. But does not believe in Allah. Will he or she go to hellfire?
I'll answer it with one word and then I'll explain. Will they go to hellfire or will they go to heaven? He said. Will they go to fire if they don't believe in Allah? Yes, they will. Why, the question is, and I think a lot of Muslims struggle like, because this is something that's asked by like even non-Muslims.
I'm telling you, you mentioned it because when you mentioned if a non-Muslim even follows
yes,
right?
Yeah.
But does that mean he's going to Jannah?
Yeah, no, even no, that person is still going to hellfire.
But
I was just saying
unless
their life in this dunya would be better, but their hereafter is doomed if they don't believe in Allah. So I think a lot, like I said, I think a lot of Muslims struggle, even they hesitate, right? And we might get this question from non-Muslims, especially the guys and the ladies in high school, right? They might get like from their classmates or their peers around them. They might ask them because they're curious. So do you guys believe that like if you're not Muslim, you're going to hell, right? And a Muslim might be like, I don't want to tell them they're going to hell, but the fact of the matter is yes. And you should tell them yes, but not just yes and then that's it. Just all right, go to hell. No, you should explain to them why. You should explain to them why, right?
Now,
and
before we answer that question, how about the Christians before us, like before Islam existed? How about the Jews before Islam existed, before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
wasallam? Anyone that believed in Isa alayhi salam and his message as a prophet was a Muslim. Those were the Muslims. And before Isa alayhi salam, the ones that believed in the messengers before him, right, and the prophets before him, and they believed in Tawheed, which is the oneness of Allah, then they were Muslim. They were the Muslims, right? Obviously, there are some of them that went other paths, and we don't include them in that, right? And I'll give a quote from the Bible since you mentioned Christians. I'll give a quote from the Bible in Matthew, which is the New Testament in the Bible, in Matthew chapter 7, verses, I believe it's 21 or 22, 23, something like that, right? Where Jesus says, according to the Bible, it says what? He says, and not everyone that says, Lord, Lord, will be, I'm paraphrasing here, not everyone that says, Lord, Lord, will be saved. Yes? He says, and on that day, they will say to me, Lord, Lord, haven't we done good works in your name? right? Basically, haven't we done good things in your name? And what is he? And this is in the Bible. He says what? He says, get away from me. I never knew you. Right? So the ones that are going to say to him, Lord, Lord, didn't we do good works in your name? Cast out demons in your name? And he's going to say, what? Get away from me. I never knew you. All the hospitals that you see, they're saving lives. If I get sick right now, I'm going to go to Mercy Hospital.
No.
Yeah? That's ran by, originated with the Catholic sisters. The Sisters of Mercy. Yeah? And all the charities. Yeah? Christians do a lot of these things. Yeah? They do a lot of good things. They feed the poor people in the streets. Yes? But still, what Jesus says to them in the Bible, that even the one, they're going to come to me and say, Lord, Lord, haven't we done good work in your name? And he's going to tell them, get away from me. I never knew you. Why? Why? Because Isa alayhi salam knows that what? That no matter what you do, if you worship other than Allah, then it's no good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward you in this life. In the hereafter, though, you don't get anything. Why? Why is it so big to worship something other than Allah? Why? What's so crazy about that? Right? What's so bad about giving a partner to Allah? And I'll give this example because I know a lot of people didn't hear this, right? Imagine, well, I'll tell you what. And you can say this even as Muslims. Say this to a person that you tell, yes, if you're not Muslim, you're going to go to hell, right? Because why? Why do we believe this? Because committing shirk or worshipping something other than Allah is bigger than anything, worse than anything else you can do. It's worse than killing every single human being. And that's not to say, killing one human being is, as you said it actually earlier. Yani, if you kill someone intentionally, an innocent person, what happens to you? Jahannam.
If you're Muslim. Even if you're Muslim.
Even if you're Muslim, yes. Even if you kill a person, this is a huge sin. But even killing every single person is not as bad as committing shirk. Why? Why? Imagine there's a button that I can push and it kills every human being. Yeah? If a person presses that button, they're still better than a person that didn't kill anyone and committed shirk. And I'll give the example that I gave when I talked about this last class. Yeah? Imagine a person that cuts a tree and a person that cuts a child in half, a human being in half. Yeah? One person cuts a tree in half, the other one cuts a human being. Which one is worse?
Human being.
A human being, 100%. Why?
Killing a soul.
Yeah. So you would say the soul, it makes this a human being more important than a tree, yeah?
No.
So the human being is more important than a tree can ever be. Yeah?
Multiple trees. If you got
whatever, every tree, you can kill every tree. It's still not as bad as killing one human. Yeah? Why? Because we say that the human being has more value than a tree. Yeah? Now, what about a person? And because it has more value, it deserves certain rights.
No.
It deserves the right to live. A human being, because it has high value, it has the right to live. Now, what about the thing that has the highest value and nothing comes close to the value of that thing? Yeah? What is the right of that? To be worshipped. That if it's the highest thing, it's the creator of everything. It makes everything function. Obviously, I'm talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? The value of that thing is higher than every single thing. So killing every human being is still not as bad as if taking away the rights of all the human beings, it still won't equal taking away the right from Allah. Why? Because Allah is value just like the human being. Just like the human being, because the value of the human being is way higher than every tree in the world. Yeah.
Just like the example, right, of the human being. Because when you say it, just like the human being, it sounds
just like the example of the human being, right? So if you kill one human being, it's not the same as killing 100 trees. Why? Because the value of human is higher. In the same sense, the value of Allah is higher than anything. And this is why it's the biggest crime. As Muslims, we consider it a crime against Allah to worship something other than Him. Yes? And obviously, we don't. This is something that is dealt with in the Akhirah. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with that. And this is why we say, even a person that, even an atheist that does good things, he sees a poor person and he feeds them or does whatever, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward him. No one does something good without being rewarded. And he'll be rewarded in this life. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give him a patient wife. I don't know. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him a nice car. Who knows? Give him 100 degrees and from college. Whatever. Right? The point is that everyone that does good is going to be rewarded. But the reward for Jannah is only for those that what? That practice Tawheed. Worshipping Allah only. So I don't think Muslims can't hesitate from that answer. I think it's very important, right? It's very important to answer that and to ask and to answer why too. Bro, like I said, I know it's tough, you know, when a non-Muslim asks like, am I going to hell?
The thing is, they have the same belief. Like, if I go tell them, okay, if I don't believe Jesus is God, for example, as far as Christians, right? Am I going to hell? They're gonna tell me, yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this is what we want to avoid. What we want to avoid as Muslims is what the past nations did before us. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over and over in the Quran, Ya Bani Israel, Ya Bani Israel, اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم. Over and over, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the nations before us. Why? So we can learn a lesson. Bro, look at the Christians today. You'll find Christians today that will say, well, I mean, not everyone goes to hell. Jews don't believe that everyone goes to hell. They don't even believe in hell, some of them. Jews believe that what? That there's heaven for the children of Israel. Everyone else is just, nothing happens. Yani, you know what I'm saying? So they're willing to compromise. There's a church downtown that has a gay pride flag outside. Would you believe that? So yani, what we want to avoid as Muslims is sugarcoating our deen, bro. We don't want to water it down. Yo, this is the true yaqeen. And I think maybe this would have been a good title. Establishing yaqeen. And yaqeen means certainty. Be certain 100%. When a non-Muslim asks me
The truth.
that is the truth 100%. If a non-Muslim asks me, am I going to hell? I don't have no hesitation saying, yes, we believe that every person that is not a Muslim and doesn't worship Allah only is going to hellfire. If you want me to explain why, I can tell you why. No problem. You know, like I said, I understand why people would hesitate because you're feeling like you're just telling them go to hell. But the point is that explain to them why they're going to hell. And maybe this is going to be the reason why they wake up. This is why these things are important for us as Muslims to learn. Why? For ourselves. Bro, we have 2 jobs in this dunya, bro. In this life. We have 2 jobs. Another person said this. I got this from someone else, but it's a very good saying. Yeah? We have 2 jobs. The first job is to establish deen in ourselves. And the second job is to establish deen in others. That's it. Establish deen in yourself and establish deen in others. Yeah? So use what we talked about to establish it in yourself and then use it to talk to others, teach others.
Very, very important though, not mockily. Like, we don't, Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran specifically tells us, and do not curse those who don't believe in Allah. Because we're not going to tell them and mock their... No, we just show them what our religion
Why
is.
not? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say not to do that? What's the next ayah?
Because فَيَسُبُّ اللَّهَ.
Yeah, if you mock their God, what are they going to come do? They're going to come mock your God. So we don't mock. We don't mock. All we do is what? We say the truth. This is what Islam says. Yeah, this is what Islam says. And when you say it with confidence, yes, this is where what? Man, all of us, we're going to be taking shahadas, inshallah. Left and right. We live, most of the people in the live, they're in the US, right? They're in the US. Some people not, but most people are in the US here, right? Bro, we have no bigger job than da'wah, bro. We have no bigger job than talking to non-Muslims about Allah's existence, about the characteristics of Allah, the attributes of Allah. right? About straight up the fact that, yo, if they don't follow Islam, they're going to hell, right? We have no bigger job than this. And bro, people in overseas, we look us in America and in the West, and whether you're Europe or Latin America, wherever, as Muslims, we look at people in the Muslim world and we say, oh, they're so lucky. You know, they're around Muslims and Islam, and the law is easier to follow because there's not naked women everywhere, whatever the case is, yeah? Them at the same time, they look at us too and they say, oh man, they're so lucky. They have Islam and they're around a bunch of people that don't have it. They can give them all Islam. They can teach. We all we're, that is all of our blessing. We should all take advantage of that, bro. Enough.
I think that's all. That's all the questions I had. It's only 5, but it took us like an hour and a half to talk about all 5 questions.
Man. Like I said, you hit the nail on the head in the beginning when you said that one of these questions we could probably spend an hour and a half on one of those questions.
Oh,
because a lot
of that, like just who is Allah itself is just
like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say at the end of Surah Al-Kahf about what, that if the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if the ocean was used as ink for the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what would happen? It would dry up, and even if another one was brought to it, that would dry up too. You know?
No. Allah. I don't know if they have any questions, but not fatwa questions though, because we're not giving out fatwas.
Don't ask.
Right? Just questions regarding today, that something that we didn't cover. That's what the questions that we're gonna take. But questions as far as this halal, is this haram, we don't take these questions. These are for scholars and the knowledgeable people. But we just take questions regarding the topics that we cover today. If we missed anything, or you still have questions regarding any of the questions that we covered, we're more than happy to answer.
100%. Are they joining right now, or you want them to type?
No, just there's the question.
Oh yeah, you will
on
see
the end. There's the option for questions on the end that we can see. And I think someone asked a question, but I'm not sure if the prophets of Allah prayed before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So how did they pray before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Well, I'll tell you what. Because we don't have the Quran was given to us. The Quran was given to us as to show the truth in the books before us. But we don't have the books that were revealed before us. We don't have the Torah. We don't have right? But
we know some. We know that, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Maryam, خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا وَبُكِيًّا.
Yeah, exactly.
About all the prophets, he said, خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا وَبُكِيًّا. So sujood is one of the ways.
Exactly, and that's what I was getting at. What I was gonna say is that what we do know 100% is that they made sujood. How do we know that they made sujood? Right? For in the Quran, yes, it says that they came out prostrating, right, with their heads on the floor. Yani, how we make sujood? Yes. Also, we know that in Isra wal Mi'raj, when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he met the prophets, what did he do?
He led
them in salah, and they prayed just like him. But you're asking, on earth, what did they do before? And I'll tell you what. And what we can use, because I think the best, alhamdulillah for Islam, but the Bible disproves the Bible and it proves Islam. That's the fact of the matter. It does. Why does it say that? Why? Because it's said in the Bible, right? In Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Yes, what does it say? It says that when Jesus, right before the Jews came to get him, and they wanted to crucify him, what did he do? He went to the Garden of Gethsemane, and what? He prayed to the Father and put his head on the floor. Who prays like that other than Muslims? And this is in the Bible, that it says that what? Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane prayed how? By putting his face on the ground. You know? So this is just to show, even in their own books, it shows that what? That the only ones that pray like that are the Muslims. No one else prays like that except Muslims. And that's how Isa alayhi salam prayed according to the Bible. Hopefully that answered that question.
That's the only question.
That was the only question. If there's no other question,
No, I guess it's not. Alhamdulillah, I hope this was beneficial and helpful for everyone. Here's another
yeah,
question.
we'll definitely do it. We'll do it. There's another one. Okay.
What are some tips to be able to focus more during Salah?
I'll let you answer that one.
Honestly, there's many, you know, and the scholars, you know, they advise that, of course, there's parts of it, right? For example, know the meaning, right, of what the imam is reading, right? But someone might say, I don't know Arabic, right? Then another thing is they say sins, stay away from sins, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sins have effect on your life,
Yeah.
right? In any way or form, right? And subhanAllah, that, like, for example, the knowledge of Allah that we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Me, you always have to tell yourself,
Answer one of the questions. Go ahead.
okay. Me always telling myself is everything that happens, it happens because of me. Everything that happens to me is because of me. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says that in the Quran, right? And whatever happens to you, فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ. It's because of what you have done, right? So now, for example, from the knowledge of Allah, and this is my mentality, where it is, right? I take it, alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah, with the permission of Allah, to the level that we have soccer, correct? If I lose a soccer game, Wallah al-Azim, I said to myself, what have I done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cause me to lose? Even though it's a worldly matter, like, who cares? It's a loss, you know, who cares? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything happens for a reason. But now, question, what if I didn't do anything, right? Let's say someone who, let me give an example, you know, um, someone watches things that he's not supposed to watch, right? And he plays soccer or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And he didn't watch it for a whole week or 2 weeks, right? Because he told himself, okay, I have a soccer game. And he has that mentality of, oh my God, that might be a reason why I lose because it's a sin, right? So he didn't do it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from his knowledge, he knows that after a game, he'll do it. That's his knowledge. The person himself didn't know that he was going to do it. The person himself he wasn't planning it, that I'm getting, because unless you're planning it, if you're planning it, that's a great sin. That's a greater sin than just doing it, right? Because you might fall into a sin, you know, because the shaitan got to you. But if you're planning it already, then that's something different. Yeah. If you're planning it, it's even worse. Now, you played, you lost. You find yourself falling into that sin again. That might be the reason why, because you were not sincere with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
Right? So sincerity, when it comes to salah, to focus in salah, is staying away from sins. Right?
Yeah.
And know who you're standing in front. Because when you salah, you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And could you just imagine, like, talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You know, just you're talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to understand that. You have to go in with the mindset of, this is Allah. I don't care who's around me. I don't care what distracts me. This is me and Allah.
Yeah.
Like,
can I
yeah, go ahead.
add a piece of advice to this? Because I'm assuming the one that asked that he typed it in English, so obviously he's just like us, you know, American, right? So I'll say this, bro. My wife is she's not Arabi, right? And when she prays, right, she first started to pray, she learned it in English first, yeah, and then she learned it in Arabic after, obviously, right? But one thing that I learned from her is, man, and you said know what the Imam is saying when they're reading, but I would also extend it to every single part of Salah, bro. understand what you're saying when you say Subhan Rabbil Azim. And
Now,
if you're an English speaker, we're English speakers, most of us, right? So, bro,
there's
understand what
there's
that
there's a
means.
there's a video that breaks it down about just the first thing you say when you start salah.
Yeah,
Allahu Akbar.
yeah,
He said, knowing that Allah is greater. Allah is greater than everything that I went through today.
yeah,
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than whoever is next to me, whoever is distracting me, my family, my father, my mother. Allah is greater. Allah is greater than my stress. Allah is great. No, just you're saying that Allah is greater. Right now you're telling yourself, Allah Akbar. Allah is greater than anything. Right now, Allah is greater than
yeah.
anything, anyone, everything. Now it's Allah. Allah, like you said, everything you say, Subhanallah. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Allah only hears, or not only hears, Allah hears the ones who thank Him, meaning He will reply to. Sami Allah, we say
And what
all the time.
right after?
ربنا لك
Where do
الحمد.
we give you hamd, we praise you. I think
And understanding that Surah Al-Fatiha, when we say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, it's a conversation with Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Hamadani abdi. My servant had thanked me. Ar-Rahman, and so much. After every ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that. And then at the end of the Surah Al-Fatiha, He says what? That my servant has asked me, O angels, let them know, I promise you, that I have forgave them. You know, it's knowing,
no,
like
what you're saying, 100%.
yeah.
I think
Now, there's one more question, and I think that's a good question for you, not me.
I want to answer because somebody asked a question in the comments about what I said about the first one when I said in the Bible it says Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, He put His face on the floor. Just to give you what I'm talking about exactly, it's Matthew 26 verses 36 to 39, and it says, then Jesus came with them onto the place called Gethsemane, and He said to the disciples, sit here while I go and pray over there. And He took with Him Peter and two of the sons and began to sorrowful and very heavy. So basically He went there and prayed, right? And He saith unto them, my soul is exceeding. I'll just skip to the part. And when He went a little further, He fell on His face and prayed, saying, oh my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. So He fell on His face and prayed. And that's Matthew 26 verse 39. So just so you know, that's what I was talking about.
And last question, well, I don't know, that's the only questions that we have here, is what are some advice to stop listening to music?
Yeah. I'll tell you this, and this is something that was told to me. Well, I'll tell you. Well, this was advice given to me back when I used to love music, and I never thought of it until after I stopped listening to music, right? And a person told me, they said, the scholars say that Quran and music cannot live in the same heart.
Cannot.
They cannot be in the same heart, bro. And I never thought, like, when I heard that at first, come on, bro. I love the Quran, right? And it wasn't until 20 years later when I stopped listening to music, and then I thought for a second, and all that time that I listened to music, how much did I read Quran? How much did I listen? And I realized, like, yo, they really cannot live in the same heart. And it's as soon as I started only listening to Quran, that's when I started hearing music, and I like hated it, bro. I would hear it and I was like, oh, turn that off. So that is what did you answer? Because that's the truth, bro. Read the Quran, bro.
Quran.
Music will not live in the same heart, bro. That's the fact, bro. And that's the only way you want to let it go completely, bro. Read more Quran, bro. Somebody told me a story. Somebody told me a story that they were in the Middle East and they were with a sheikh. Yeah, like some guy. He's like a learned guy, right? He's not, you know, a mufti or something, but he's a imam, yeah. And they were out, and he's walking with them. He took them out to places, whatever. And they're at a place, and he's sitting there, and he's like, he's tapping his ring on the counter, like while they're just waiting, you know.
Yeah.
Sheikh told him, he kept telling him stop, and he told them, he said, don't do that. He said, if you're doing that, I'll give you something better to do. Just read Quran. Read, bro. And he's telling me, like, this guy, anytime you would see him and we're just waiting somewhere, you would see him just like this. He reading all the time. His tongue would stay rubbed with Quran all the time. You think that guy listens to music? It's impossible, bro. Especially if
You
you're
know,
trying to.
subhanAllah, and that's something that came across my mind too,
Yeah.
right? Alhamdulillah, I don't listen to music, but it came across my mind while listening to Anashid,
Yeah.
right? I'm
Yeah.
like, why am I listening to Anashid? You know, not that, some scholars that say it's okay because it doesn't have instrument, because music is literally the lyrics and the instrument, right?
No.
Um, and then I'm like, I'm listening to Anashid. What if I just listen to Quran? You know what's gonna happen? Just by listening, I'm getting angry.
Yeah, bro.
So I'm like, why waste like I'm driving, right? For let's say 10 minutes, 25, 10 minutes, not even, okay? 20 minutes, whatever. Um, imagine just that 10 minutes just you getting angry just by listening to Quran. Or 20 minutes. Or while you're waiting for something or waiting for someone or you're at a whatever the case might be, right? It's just well, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I I'm like well, I'd rather just listen to Quran.
No. Yeah, bro. That's the best way, for sure.
So I don't know if there's one more question.
Is there?
Um, what should you do if you are in a car with someone who is playing music and won't stop even after asking them
Jump,
to? Well, next time don't go with them.
jump out, bro. No, honestly, I mean,
That's a good.
you answered it, bro. على دين خليله, right? The person is on the religion or the path of their
Now,
friend.
now, now, let's take it. Let's
I'm
take
not
it to open mindset now,
there. You go.
right? Let's say let's be real. Let's be real, okay? What if it's their father? Okay, they're young. The kid is 12, 13, 14, whatever the case might be. His father, he listens to music, and
Yeah,
that's his only ride. His
yeah.
mother. Okay, what's the solution?
I'll tell you, man. When it comes to parents, that requires way more patience than you dealt with anyone else.
No.
Because I'll be honest with you, when it comes to that, that's not as simple as just don't go with them
Yeah,
or just jump.
yeah, that's what I said. Let's be real, okay? Because right here we're saying, oh, don't go with them. Okay, let's change his question and say it's a mother or a father, right?
Yeah. So we started. When we were talking before questions, the last thing I talked about was the importance of giving da'wah. Yeah. What when the Sahaba after when one of the Sahaba that when the beginnings of Islam, the beginnings there when it was still a secret. It was
Can I just tell you? I know
yeah,
where you're going,
yeah,
but
go ahead.
not even the
Yeah.
Sahaba. Prophet Ibrahim, who did he start his da'wah with?
His father, na'am,
Father.
na'am, na'am, 100%. So, bruh, if it's your parents or somebody that you can't avoid, bro, I'll tell you what, man. Every parent wants the best for their kids, right? They want the best for their kids. And if you're advising, and it depends on how you advise. Know that when you advise your parents, you have to do it different than when you're advising your friends. You have to come off. You just have to do it differently in the most patient way ever. And every parent wants the best. Every parent that's a believer is proud of their child that advises them the Quran and Sunnah. That's the fact, right? So if it's your parent, yeah. If it's your friend, bro, just jump out the moving car, bro. No, just don't go with them. But if it's your parent, advise them. You got to keep advising. You never give that up. Just like they never gave up on you when you were a kid growing up. They never like, oh my God, I'm giving up on changing his diaper. I'm giving up on feeding him. I fed him enough. They never gave up on you. They kept going. They kept raising you. They kept, taking care of you that same way that you don't ever give up on them, right?
While you're advising them, if you have a phone, you have headphones,
Yeah,
put
put
them
the
on,
headphones
put some
on.
Quran on.
100%, bro. Come on, I'm not buying that. You don't have headphones, bro. Come on, man. 100%. Or you got Bluetooth. Just beat them to the Bluetooth connect in the car.
Yeah, right.
Got it.
And be like, yo, oh my God, I heard this new reciter. You're gonna love it.
Then
Boom. No,
bro. They're not gonna.
because no matter
Until
how
you
much
turn
a
it on.
person listens, I'm telling you, no matter how much a person listens to music, if you play Quran, and then he's not gonna be like, let me put music. No, he's gonna feel so
Bro,
awkward. Like,
not only that.
I can't put music
No,
after Quran. So deep down their heart, even the people that listen to Quran, to music, deep down their heart, they know it's wrong.
100%, 100%, bro.
Yeah,
Not only that it's wrong, they know that, like I said, they know that Quran and music can't live in the same heart.
you're not.
Inshallah, we answered the questions and oh, there's another question. I
It
think.
says, could you explain? That's another topic, though. Could you explain the importance of forgiveness in Islam?
Yeah, I think that's another topic talking about rahmah, about
Yeah,
about rahmah and
I mean, what are we talking about? Forgiveness, like between people? Then that is very important.
yeah,
That's very important because and I'm just gonna keep it as that. That is the only thing that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala won't forgive unless that person forgives you. It's the only thing. If I do something to Said Naib and he don't forgive me for it, and I don't ask him, unless I ask him for forgiveness, right? And he still insists, I still have to ask for forgiveness from Allah. So I can't just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me because I did something wrong to him. I have to ask him as well, right? So that's the importance of forgiveness.
no,
But
and
that's from my part. But from his part, forgiving. I think
the
that's
one,
what the question is.
the one maybe we could just add it on this one last thing. The one that has mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on them. The one that forgives, Allah forgives them. You know what I mean? So if you have the rahmah and the mercy to forgive someone, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gonna give you the same thing. So I don't know. It can't get more important than that. Allah subhanahu
لا
wa ta'ala.
يرحم من لا يرحم لا يرحم.
نعم,
That's the
exactly.
beauty of Arabic, right? It's the same word.
Say
ضمان
it.
كسرة بس
Say it.
أو فتحة.
Yeah.
من لا يرحم, whoever does not have mercy, لا يرحم,
Doesn't
won't have mercy.
not exactly. That's what I was getting at, yani. So, man, you don't want to forgive or you don't want to have mercy. Know that you're missing out on the mercy that you need. So, inshallah, that answered the questions. We're going for 2 hours and only 5 questions. That was. We're gonna have to do the next one. One Truth Foundation. I'm gonna ask you questions because I have a lot of questions about young people. And I think obviously no one knows more than you in our community about working with young people, and even the young guys that are watching this. There's people that are younger than you. You know what I mean? So it would apply to them too. You know what I mean? So, and obviously, if you're 40 something, then it applies to the ones that are 20 something, and if you're 20 something, it applies to the ones that are 15, and the 15-year-olds applies to the 10-year-olds, and you know what I mean? So
I
I have a
and
lot
this is important. So I would be ready. I don't know if I'm gonna be ready honestly because there's a lot, and like you told me, and I took it to my mind and it stayed here, right? And that's the most important part. When someone tells you something or remind you of something or point out something, then it should stay here,
yeah,
right? Is you ask me, how can you do this, man? How can
yeah,
you have the patience, right?
yeah,
But like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And I told you, I don't know how to answer it. I told you, like, I don't know. It's just a blessing of Allah. It's a blessing.
yeah,
You know, I'm not going to take, you know, pride of it and be like, oh, it's me. You know, that's who I am. That's not who I am. That's who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me.
yeah. Sure.
So that's we're going to leave it with that. But I don't know if anybody else got any more questions. But that took us 2 hours, only 5 questions, but these questions are very important. Jazakumullah khair, guys, for staying with us. And, hopefully they benefited. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, most importantly, to accept from us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's a loss sign.